Hey girl, Send out here coming at you with another video, and in this video we are going to talk about why your scalp is always itching even after you wash it. I'm talking about you wash the crap out of it. It is still super duper itchy, flaky, all of that stuff. Even though I tell you that you shouldn't put oil and grease and butters on your scalp, you can't let go of it because your scalp itches so much, and the only thing that soothes the itching is oil and grease. Well, if you watch until the end of this video, not only will I let you know why your scalp is itching, I'll let you know how long it's going to be like that and exactly what to do to stop it. So if you want to know the answer to this question and why your scalp is itching, feeling like I got little critters, then I get passionate as I talk. So if you feel like I'm yelling at you, baby, I'm not. I apologize. I apologize. When the scalp is coated with oils and butters, it creates an environment that contributes and causes the itching of the scalp instead of being something that alleviates it. Let's break down what's actually happening when you feel itching and when it's stopped by adding oil. Number one, sebum production and scalp oiliness. Now, I say it all the time, the human scalp produces sebum naturally in a gland called the sebaceous gland. Sebum helps to lubricate the hair shaft and protect the scalp. Excessive sebum production can lead to a really thick, oily buildup on the scalp and hair shaft. But a lot of times for the group of people that I'm talking about, it don't end up on the hair shaft because you don't comb your hair enough for the sebum to reach your hair. When additional oils on top of different products like creams, butters, gels, and different things of that nature, what they end up doing is creating a layer on top of the epicuticle, which we talked about in this video, and then on top of the sweat and the natural sebum that's being released from the scalp, there is also an additional layer that you put on whenever you layer products. So in your mind, you think that you have a completely clean hair shaft and you're just putting products on it, and all your hair has on it is those 3 products that you put on it or those 37 products that you put on it. But in reality, your hair already has sebum and sweat on top of the different microorganisms and forms of yeast and mites that live on the scalp. But we'll talk about that. We're gonna get there in a second. Remember that when you add and layer all of these products on, you think that you're only trapping moisture, but what you're actually trapping is dead skin cells, different forms of pollutions from the air, from the environment, from your body, and different forms of yeast and bacteria that are being released from the scalp. Oxygen deprivation of the hair follicles, and this is so freaking important because we need to understand that your hair's follicle oxygen flow is essential for every part of your body, especially the follicle. But most of your practices and most of the things that you guys do completely cut off oxygen flow at its source on the hair's cuticle and as well as the scalp. Whenever you hear about these different hair products, it is marketed to you as something that you put on your hair and you tackle hair growth from an external level, but that is not true, and it's one of the biggest scams out. And honestly, any dermatologist will tell you that, because at the end of the day, the only thing that a product that you're applying to the scalp is going to do is kill an overproduction of bacteria that could be limiting your hair growth. But do these products actually grow the hair? No, they just stop and put a halt on the disruption that is causing your hair not to grow. And it seems like that is the product that's single-handedly responsible for your hair growing.
Stop it. Get some help.
Because when you're using the product, your hair is growing like crazy, but when you stop it, your hair stops growing and it starts falling out. Well, that's not because the product works so good. It is because your patterns and your routines are the things that's causing the oxygen deprivation. Your patterns and your routines are the things that is causing your hair growth cycle to slow down in the first place and to grow that overproduction of bacteria. So when the product kills the bacteria, then your hair can grow as normal, but then whenever you stop taking it, there's nothing to kill the bacteria that you're causing to overgrow within the follicle from your practices. I really hope that makes sense. It's important to remember that the hair's follicle requires a certain amount of oxygen flow to remain healthy, and by layering the hair shaft full of products, the lock method, if you lock the cuticle, you make it impossible for the cuticle to receive oxygen from the environment, right? And you also make it impossible for the hair's follicle to receive moisture like it's supposed to. Whether your follicle is full of a non-comedogenic oil or a comedogenic oil or not, if you have an overproduction, if you have so much oil on the scalp, now cause the bacteria and yeast that live on your scalp to colonize at a crazy rate. So the follicle is full of Demodex mites, oil, sebum, and all of these other things. So I know you think that all you're doing is putting a little oil on your hair, but you're doing a lot more than putting on oil when you grease the scalp. When the scalp is covered in oil, this pretty dense layer that you put on the hair shaft makes it really hard for the hair's follicle to breathe and to receive moisture and to receive oxygen flow from the environment. This lack of oxygen flow is what can cause the scalp to feel a little limited, or like it's just lacking something, maybe even dryness, and the scalp may even feel tight. We're still wondering why your hair is itchy, right? Well, if you're a person who greases the scalp all the time and the follicle is always blocked and there's never oxygen flow, whenever you shampoo the hair, what you do, you end up, especially if you're using a good shampoo, what you do, you end up breaking up that layer that is blocking the hair follicle on the scalp. And then the first thing that's gonna happen when a follicle that has been blocked and not able to receive oxygen flow, what's the first thing that's gonna happen when you unblock it? Oxygen is gonna flow right in. Most people, when you feel the tingling sensations or when you feel itching, the first thing we want to do, because we're brainwashed into thinking that's what we have to do, is run to an oil, a grease, or a butter. But no, because this is what the tingling is. The sudden exposure to oxygen when your scalp hasn't been exposed to it because you've been greasing and oiling the scalp, that sudden exposure to oxygen within the follicle is going to let off like sort of a tingling, itchy sensation. This is the feeling that you'll get when your scalp is adjusting to having the right environment again. It's the same thing if you scratch yourself and your body begins to heal up in the space where there's a scab, it is going to itch like crazy. That's what's happening as your body is resetting itself. Notice that if your scalp is really itchy, if you're a person who has a really itchy scalp, most likely the itchiness is at its peak when right after you shampoo your hair, and then again y'all be like, oh my god, it's so itchy, I put oil on it and it's okay. The oil isn't making it better. The reason that your follicles are itching is because they've been blocked. They're in the process of healing. Whenever you detox, right, whenever you shampoo your hair, the oxygen and airflow is coming back in, so it's a swift little breeze, baby, that your follicle ain't been in a minute. And then what ends up happening is you will feel the tingling sensation that feels like itching. Then you say, okay, I'm gonna go get some oil. You put oil on your scalp and the itching goes away and you think you fixed something. No, you didn't. The only reason it was itching is because the scalp needed time to reset itself. Oh my god, it can finally breathe again, so it's itching. That the tingling feeling that you feel, baby, is new air circulation within the follicle. And then you go put oil on it, you're like, oh my god, the oil helped the itching. No, it didn't. The oil cut off the oxygen flow again. So now there's no more itching and tingling, not because there was something wrong that the oil corrected. What was wrong was your follicle was finally getting oxygen flow, and then you went and blocked it back up again. I tell people all the time, even though YouTube gave y'all like instant gratification, like, oh, do this and grow your hair in 2 minutes. it doesn't really work that way, right? You want to give your hair and your body grace. So if you are a person who's been doing team natural practices for years, if you're a person who has been doing relaxers wrong for years, if you're a person who's just been doing whatever to your hair wrong for years, it's not just gonna take one shampoo and then everything's okay. No, you have to allow your body to reset itself. Number 3, bacterial and mite activity. Now in this video here, I told you guys all about Demodex mites and what they do. What if I told you that right now as we speak you have parasites within your hair's follicle? Demodex folliculorum. Demodex folliculorum is a parasite that lives inside of the human hair follicle, and today we're going to talk about how most likely the overgrowth of this parasite within the hair's follicle is what's causing the burning, the itching, the swelling, the balding, the thinning, the scabs, and so many other scalp issues that we look at as CCCA, telogen effluvium, folliculitis, and so many other forms of alopecia. So if you want to learn more about this parasite that lives in your scalp and on your eyelashes, then make sure you keep watching to the end of this video. Demodex mites are the natural parasite that lives on everybody's scalp, actually all over the human body wherever there are follicles present, and their number one objective is to eat sebum, right? That lives within the sebaceous gland. You have sebaceous glands in every follicle all over your body. Yes, they're on your face. This is why when people are like, oh, do I put this herb on my scalp, or I spray my scalp with this herb, or I put this essential oil on my scalp, the worst thing you can do is put essential oils on your scalp. You know why? They kill good and bad bacteria. You need a mixture of the good and bad bacteria to be able to balance out these Demodex mites, because you can never kill them, you never get rid of them 100%. But if you are a person who's like, oh my god, I'm so scared, I'm about to kill all these Demodex mites with tea tree, then what you're gonna do, you're gonna kill the Demodex mites temporarily, because you can never get rid of them. You're gonna kill them temporarily, and then after they die on your scalp, they're gonna crawl from your forehead right up to those new vacant homes that are now present because of all of the previous Demodex mites that you killed. But because you used essential oil, there is going to be nothing there to fight off the Demodex that are coming up from your face onto your scalp. So this is why I tell you not to put essential oils on the scalp that kill all forms of good and bad bacteria. Now, when Demodex mites are controlled, they're harmless to the human body. And you know the easiest way to control them, girl, just shampooing your hair. All you gotta do is wash your hair to control them. There's nothing special you need to do. There's no special shampoo or special conditioner that you can use. Even if you go get the strongest tea tree treatment ever created in the world, not just the city, the world, Craig, it's not going to be enough, because you can never get rid of the Demodex mites. They will come back. But you can simply make sure that you have a routine and a pattern that makes sure your scalp is clean on a regular basis, because a oily, greasy scalp is the most amazing, most perfect environment for a Demodex mite. What? So if you're oiling the scalp and you like spritz your hair with water throughout the day, or you like spritz your hair with leave-in conditioner throughout the day, what you do is create an amazing environment for the bacterial from all of the different forms of yeast and bacteria to grow on the scalp, and you make an amazing environment for these mites, because all of the different forms of yeast, bacteria, and parasites that live on the human scalp, they love wet, dark, and oily environments. So when you create a wet, dark, and oily environment that is completely absent of oxygen flow, you create the most amazing environment for bacteria. You're oiling the scalp on a regular basis, you are feeding the different forms of yeast and bacteria, making it easier for them to colonize. But when you shampoo the scalp like you're supposed to, when you use the right products on the scalp like you're you're supposed to, you end up doing the exact opposite. So instead of these Demodex mites being able to multiply at rapid rates, they end up dying off way faster than normal, only existing in numbers that are going to help the human body and not help it, because they are our friends. Make sure you watch the video on Demodex mites in the description box below, because I go really deep into what they are and how to control them, what some of my favorite products are to keep your Demodex mites under control, because they are yours. They're not going anywhere. So stop trying to figure out how to get rid of them, because they're your friends. They your dusty hood rat friend. Like, she don't let her be having kids, just constantly have kids. Keep them on birth control, and the shampoo is the birth control. The organisms that live on the human scalp, not only do they love oil, but they eat it and they metabolize it, and then they create byproducts that irritate the scalp, like oleic acid, right? This form of yeast that lives on the human scalp eats sebum and whatever oil or grease you put on it, and then it converts that, right, into oleic acid. It boo-boos out oleic acid, and then that irritates the scalp. You do not have to take my word for it. So many of you are booking appointments with your dermatologist. If there's something that I'm saying on here that you disagree with, like what I just said, you can literally go to your dermatologist and say, hey, is this true? Whenever you oil and grease the scalp, when I add oil, is it true that the yeast that lives on my scalp's favorite food is oil and sebum, and when I put it on there, it eats it, metabolizes it, turns it into oleic acid, and that's the thing that's irritating my scalp? Ask the question just like that, or maybe even play this video. Let them know for me, doctor. Remember, if the scalp has been overran by bacteria, yeast, and Demodex mites, right, as you're clearing them up, even if you, let's say you've been going to a dermatologist and your dermatologist has recommended a treatment or ointment for your scalp, is working, but you notice that after you wash your hair, your scalp is itching like crazy, that is because the bacteria infection is dying off, the follicle is healing. And just like if you scratch your arm, right, as the scalp is forming, it is going to itch like crazy. That is what's happening on the scalp. So you guys, if you've been following Team Natural Practices for the last 12 years, then you stop it, your scalp is itching like crazy, you need to give your body and your follicle and your scalp time to heal. But what happens is you never give your body a chance to heal, because as soon as the itching happens, you run back to the oil that caused the problem in the first place. So it's like a never-ending cycle. The follicle can never ever heal because you won't stop adding oil. That's why there are so many professionals that I know, dermatologists and cosmetologists like myself and trichologists, that'll tell their clients, like, if you keep using oil, I'm not going to be able to see you anymore. And then they come back, they're still using oil, and they say, okay, I can't service you as a client. And that's because you can't live in both worlds at the same time. And that's the problem that a lot of people have, because a cosmetologist like me or scientists like me is going to say, don't put oil on the scalp, period. And then you'll stop doing it, your scalp will begin to heal, you may see your skin cell turnover cycle reset, which you're gonna mistake for dandruff. And every solution to every problem is to grab oil and put oil on it. And then because you no longer see the dryness, you no longer see the dead skin, right, you no longer have the itching, you think that you're helping, but in reality you're not helping, you're hurting the scalp, because the itching was a sign that the follicle is cleansed and beginning to heal, because it has oxygen flow and those cells are rejuvenating themselves. There's life, there's new activity in the follicle. Yes, it's gonna itch. Remember, when shampoos and clarifiers reduce and remove all of the blockage and the oxygen flow is restored, you're going to have itching. It's gonna itch, but you have to allow the body to heal. So if you've been oiling your scalp for a really long time, these are some of the symptoms that you may notice, because you might experience itching as your scalp adjusts to your new routine. If you've been oiling the scalp for a long time, the follicle needs time to readjust itself to get used to receiving oxygen again. Just imagine if you had learned to survive without the proper oxygen flow. When you finally get the oxygen flow that you need, it's gonna take you a minute to adjust. You're not just gonna start breathing normally. You'll be like out of whack for a minute, but you'll need time to adjust.
Wait for it. Here it comes. Almost there.
Remember, your hair's follicle needs a little bit of time to adjust to what's going on the outside, on the exterior level. Most times when there's any type of ailment or inflammation, the follicle and the sebaceous gland is going to produce an overabundance of sebum. So that's another thing that will cause a lot of itching. You may notice that you'll need to wash your hair a little more as the whole entire system is resetting itself. It's like, we're gonna oxygen flow, let's clear some of this out. Like, it may take a couple of weeks for your scalp to readjust itself. It's not going to be overnight, y'all. Again, this will be a period, a very short period, where the scalp will feel a little dry and itchy as it normalizes. This will only take a week or two tops. Do not add oil to it. Let your body heal. Accumulated debris and microorganisms. Again, whenever you're oiling and greasing the scalp, you make it easier for the scalp to attract different forms of yeast and bacteria on the scalp, also making it easier for these forms of yeast and bacteria to colonize, reproduce, and doodle on your scalp, because that's what they do to do. Don't you doodle at home? Your follicle is their house. They doodling at your house because you keep feeding them. You keep overfeeding them. So your scalp full of doodle. You a doodle head. You a doodle head. Disruption of the scalp's natural microbiome. Now, in this video linked in the description box, I break down the fact that there are anywhere between 100 to 1,000 different forms of yeast and bacteria that live on the scalp. Whenever you oil the scalp, you power up these microorganisms and you allow them to colonize, right? Now, the amount of microorganisms that live on my scalp and the amount of microorganisms that live on somebody who oils and greases their scalp are two completely different things, right? And if you oil and grease your scalp the same way for a multiple number of years, right, whenever you stop doing it, your scalp will itch a little bit as your microbiome balances itself out, and it reduces the amount of microbiome that is living on the scalp, and it readjusts to a healthy amount of good and bad bacteria and yeast and parasites, right? These are things that are really, really important for you to understand. But when you stop oiling and greasing the scalp and you cleanse it off, the microbiome that lives on your scalp that you've created, it needs time to die off. It's not that simple, y'all. It's not as simple as, oh, I shampooed my hair this one time and now every microorganism on my scalp is dead. No, ma'am. I need y'all to understand, like the way that I try to teach y'all in the playlist below, where I talk about different scalp disorders and different forms of yeast and bacteria infections. Check the link in the description box below, because that video helps it makes these videos make it easier for you to understand what these bacteria are and what environments they need to thrive. There's one bacteria that I told y'all about that can hold its breath for up to 8 hours. You're not washing your hair for 8 hours, so you shampooing your hair is not going to kill a certain form of bacteria, especially when you've been oiling and greasing the scalp. It's powerful, it's strong, it's colonized on the scalp. So you washing your hair, you shampooing your hair, even with tea tree, isn't necessarily going to be strong enough to do it, to kill anything. There's another form of yeast and bacteria that lives on the scalp that is so prevalent that what has happened is dermatologists aren't even able to treat this bacteria, because this bacteria, it creates a microfilm, right? This bacteria creates a microfilm, and what this microfilm does, this microfilm actually helps the bacterium to protect itself. So even when you're trying to kill it with antibiotics or with anything that dermatologists try to throw at it, a lot of times these bacteria infections are not going away. They're not dying because the things that you guys have used in your hair have beefed them up and made them so strong that there's nothing that you can do to kill it. Literally every single time I make a video about oils and greases and butters and stuff, people are like, oh no, I've been using it forever and it's good. But I also get different customers, I also get different viewers like these ladies, where I'm so grateful for you for sharing that even in your 50s and in your 60s you've been doing things that I tell y'all not to do for years and years on end, just to one day wake up and everything that I've been telling you guys about is coming to pass. And the truth of the matter is, none of these things have to happen. It is not necessary for you to cover your hair in oils, butters, and grease. It's not. Allow your body time to heal, and also once you stop adding oils, butters, and greases, allow the microbiome on your scalp time to readjust to the new environment that isn't like over infested with bacteria. They gonna be like, oh girl, I can put my feet up. Craig, gone with all his damn kids. Like, that's how it's gonna be. Another symptom that will last for a short period of time while your scalp is healing is scalp sensitivity. If you've been oiling and greasing the scalp for a long period of time, there's always a barrier on your scalp, and that first layer of your skin is weak because there's always something on it weakening that skin's barrier. So as it heals up, those first couple of weeks you will feel a little bit of sensitivity, and it'll be hard for you to get through it without putting oil on it, because in your mind you're like, oil. Like, you just have to use it. But that's gonna be the fastest way to give you a setback, and staying away from it will be the fastest way to stop the itching. Most women see dandruff, most women see flakes on the scalp and they think it's dandruff, and most of the time it's not dandruff. It's your skin cell turnover cycle, which happens every 28 days, where the dead skin cells on your scalp die and fall off, and the new skin cells make their way up with new hair. But if you're a person who's been greasing the scalp on a regular basis, the skin cell turnover cycle is never happening, because the skin can never die off, because every time it dies off, dries out, you go back and rehydrate it with oil and grease, and then the process just starts over. A lot of people who say that their hair is stuck at the same length even though their ends aren't broken, most of the time this is why. As your scalp gets used to being clean and free from excess oil, the first couple of weeks you will notice that your scalp may be a little tingly, or your scalp may be a little bit more sensitive to like air, or like really like heat exposure, sometimes even sensitive to touch, as you allow your scalp to heal. The same way if somebody gave you an Indian burn and just kept rubbing, and then your skin was like right before it broke, like right before it started bleeding, anytime like some real close light hit it, anytime somebody put like water on it, any type of like shampoo, body wash, anything on the skin in an irritated area is going to burn, or it may itch a whole lot. That doesn't mean that you need more oil. That means that your scalp is healing and readjusting to being free from oil for a long period of time. If you're changing your patterns and your routines that you've been following for decades, you can expect for your hair to become for your scalp to be a little sensitive. If your scalp is finally getting exposure, if it's finally getting air exposure, y'all, it's going to be a little itchy, bro. Let's talk about what you can do to help soothe if it's just getting like too crazy. Now, as an herbalist, right, with an apothecary, Cynple Apothecary, I want to say this: I am not recommending you use any of my herbs or tinctures as hair products in any way, shape, or form. However, If you have a scalp or follicle infection, and if you think that you have a scalp or follicle infection, you can use herbal extracts mixed with water, nothing else but a couple of drops of an herbal extract inside of water, and then inside of a spray bottle, or you can dip a cotton ball in it and put it on the scalp, and then you cover the hair with a plastic cap for about 20 minutes, and then after that you shampoo at least 3 times with a clarifying shampoo and then with a moisturizing shampoo. And it is so vitally important that you shampoo it out. Whenever you see videos, people are like, oh, I left a little bit in. Yeah, you leave a little bit in and a little bit of hair is gonna fall out. Damn! Don't do that. No, absolutely not. You are going to shampoo 3 times because you want to remove every drop of it in those 20 minutes. Every key constituent within the herbs that I'm about to tell you about has the ability to make it deep inside of the hair's follicle. You do not need to leave it there. And once you shampoo it off, within those 20 minutes, all of the key constituents have made it into the follicle to do all of the work. So let's get into it. I have 3. So let's get into Zen GunPowder. Zen GunPowder is so freaking amazing for inflammation and all of the different things that can cause extreme itching in the scalp, and for increasing the rate in which the scalp is able to heal. Zen GunPowder extract. The number 1 killer in this is menthol. Because it contains menthol, it is a powerhouse in soothing. Menthol gives a cooling sensation to the scalp, which will immediately alleviate the itching and inflammation. But let me tell you why. When this pure peppermint extract touches the scalp combined with water, again, it goes deeply into the hair's follicle to end inflammation. Internally, menthol is amazing because it acts as a calming and soothing effect for different inflammatory issues. This will reduce systematic inflammation, which will eventually lead to scalp irritation and inflammation. Internal benefits are amazing for helping out with stress. And when you're helping out with stress, what it ends up doing is taking your body out of fight or flight, because whenever you get stressed, what happens is your body gets triggered to release more cortisol. And when cortisol gets released into the body, it also triggers the sebaceous gland to produce more sebum. So by calming and soothing the body, you end up regulating your sebum production, which in return reduces your inflammation. This will help to balance the scalp's environment, widely reducing the inflammation and the cause, which is an overproduction and an over influx of yeast and bacteria that cause the inflammation in the first place. Basically, it make a real funky environment for them. They ain't gonna want to come back. Number 2 is going to be lavender. Ooh, now I only have lavender available in extract form, but lavender is going to be one of the things that's going to help the scalp heal. Taken internally, again, lavender is one of those things that is widely going to help with reducing stress, which is one of the main causes for an overproduction of sebum and different hormones and things of that nature in the body that cause so many different scalp and hair shaft disorders. Its anti-inflammatory properties also help the body to speed up the healing process of the scalp. So this is widely going to reduce the time frame in which your scalp is itching, and it also reduces the inflammation, so it's not itching as much. One thing I forgot about menthol: menthol has the ability to weaken or temporarily shut down nerve endings. So basically, you won't feel the itching anymore. The itching will kind of subside and be pushed to the side for that reason, because of this constituent. Next up, chamomile. Now I have red now chamomile extract, which is a mixture of Egyptian chamomile and red raspberry leaf, and this extract is absolutely amazing for its anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. It's rich in anti-inflammatory and calming compounds. This makes it excellent for reducing inflammation that causes itchy scalp, redness, and so much inflammation. Internally, it promotes relaxation. So again, those cortisol levels can calm down, like your body's not releasing testosterone, which is turning into DHT, which is also attacking the hair follicle. Like, you just have a hold to everything. By taking something that induces relaxation and systematic inflammation, it's going to be amazing, because a lot of times, especially if you're eating the same things, or if you have like the same type of job that gives the same type of stress, your body will just almost automatically have triggers. Nothing even happened. Your body's like,
it's 4 o'clock. She can get stressed out around this time. Go ahead, break out. Get some bumps around her chin.
Like, but if you make sure that you're balancing yourself from the inside out, you'll be able to reverse that and set that clock in a different way. For decades, chamomile has been used on the scalp to control the form of yeast that causes dandruff in the first place. Again, am I telling y'all, oh, this is a replacement for everything else? Absolutely not. I'm not in replacement of, but the same way that you would use something that your dermatologist recommended, right? So if your dermatologist recommends, okay, put this on your scalp, it's gonna kill, the reason you're putting it on the scalp is because it's there to kill yeast and bacteria and things of that nature. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this, make sure you head over to my blog where I break everything down in detail. But I really hope that this makes sense. If your scalp is itching after you wash your hair, baby, most likely it's because it's finally able to breathe again, like Tony Braxton said. Sometimes, instead of us being happy that our scalp is able to breathe, we look at that itching as something that needs oil. I know that for whatever reason, we have been slapped over the head with oil so many goddamn times. We believe that oil is something that we must do, but it's not true. And one thing I also want us to think about, that this, hopefully I can find a comment while I'm pointing right here, this comment that she made was like, she thinks that a lot of women who are constantly talking about grease are completely forgetting the way that women use grease today and the way that our grandmothers use it are two completely different things. Women now, every time they touch their hair, they put grease in it, versus our grandmothers would use like a little itty bitty amount of like small amount on their hands. They will emulsify it like this, and then they will put it all over our hair, not on our scalp. My grandma never greased my scalp. You would put it on your hair and comb it through your hair, and then she would braid my hair up. And guess what? Nobody, including her, was touching it again. Either my grandma or my mama. Nobody else was touching my hair again until the next time it was time for me to get it done. And guess who would be in trouble if it looked any different than it did the day that she did it? So y'all are putting grease and butter and oil on y'all scalp every day. Y'all oiling and greasing y'all scalp every day. Your mama, even if your mama did use oil when you were little, she only used it on your wash day, and your mama wasn't washing your hair every 2 days. You probably got your hair done every 2 weeks. So if even that. I used to have my hair beads all the time. My mother was not greasing my scalp every day. They only put grease in my hair the day that they put these braids in, and then nobody touched my hair again until it was time to take these braids out. So where do we get this I'm greasing my scalp every day from? Where are we getting it from? We need to let it go. So I hope that at this point you understand why your scalp has been itching and how to make it stop. I love you guys so much. As you can see, it's really not that complicated. We kind of make it complicated. So I love you guys so much. Make sure you check the links in the description box if you want to shop the Apothecary, or check the blog out if you want to read up on some free information. Okay, I love y'all so much, and until my next video, bye. Hopefully it stop itching. If you stop greasing it and oiling it, it'll stop itching, scratching.